G'day viewers. Well, I sold my storage container and all the 90% that I had in there is all here. A cupboard, all my good old vintage TVs are all in the back of my shed. Here's some here. I kept the oldest computer monitors, CRT ones I kept. Yeah, all my TVs are just stacked in there, all the good old ones. And some project ones in there. The BPC ones and all the rest of the stuff I had that didn't want anymore, I gave to a mate. He's got them on his property covered up under plastic tarps and in cupboards. So he's a pretty switched on kind of guy, a bit of really mastered chemistry and physics back in the day when he went to school. So pretty switched on guy. Definitely kept all this sort of stuff. Kept the old toaster, which is a pretty nice little find when I got that. I'm going to clear this all out and make some shelving in here so I can get around things and get pest controlling done. I'm not going to leave them like that. I can't even use them when I like that. It's a bit unorganised and messy. Kept the old not so vintage-ish type of PC if you're a computer nerd sort of thing. Kept that. Kept all the radio valves. Yeah, radio I got ages ago with the burnt chassis. One of the chassis in there. Scored a Kelvinator compressor from come out of a house which is owned by a local repair shop / retail electronics retailer. Has been in business for a long time, very well known in my area. This is actually a Kelvinator system being put into a house that was built in the 50s, and they actually had a pantry which is actually a fridge. This was just an outdoor unit for it. Pretty interesting. It's been sealed off for a long time, and the house has had the kitchen gutted and that fridge compartment removed a long time ago. The evaporator was thrown out unfortunately years ago. This had been pinched off and left outside, sitting outside in that very spot when it was in service for years. Then I got it. Gone to a good home. What I'm going to do, I'm going to probably take the evaporator, the condenser off this Kirby unit and put it on the Kelvinator and use this Kelvinator condenser as an evaporator. Not sure yet, but that'd be quite a cool little project. Date codes 3rd month 1954, so good old stuff. Here's an the guy I gave all the other stuff to is a bit of a scrapper and recycler and collector. Doesn't scraps the crappy stuff and keeps the good stuff, and he's given me a couple of fridges and stuff in the past. He still does, and I just clean them up and resell them, and they go halves and profits. I got the occasional buggered white goods he's got. The buggered ones I just get pick them for parts, like these two freezers. Got the compressors out for parts. They had an old Australian made company, just had an Embraco. This is an end of era. Just as they stopped selling R12 appliances, this would have been for the end of that era in the mid to late 90s. But someone's actually had a go at it with a 22 rifle. The compressor didn't get any crap in it from the system being open like that. So he gave me this fridge and this freezer, which worked completely fine. Been sitting out in the weather, but I'm going to cut and polish it and sell it for a profit. Paint up the cosmetic damage there, and that's all done. So these things work completely fine. You just he picks up all sorts of stuff from all the shops and everything that are scrap, and so occasionally most of the stuff he gets, it gets a lot of good stuff and nothing wrong with it, just people just don't want it. So he just puts them out in his paddock in the weather. He gives me a call and I give him some scrap and everything else, and I get stuff like this in return, which I'll clean up and sell, and we go halves the profits, which he's happy, I'm happy. It's an Australian made Kelvinator. Nowadays they're all cheap Thai made junk. I wouldn't touch them now. It's got a Danfoss knockoff compressor, 1 bowl group, also called a Huaguang, the company. Basically they've taken the Danfoss design and just knocked it off, as the Chinese always like doing. R600A, also butane or camping gas. There's a Embraco compressor, R134A, so that works fine. And this came from a guy at work, which they didn't want it anymore. They threw it in the bin, so they gave it to me. Nothing wrong with it, just unneeded. So it's going to be sold too. It's also a Huaguang Danfoss knockoff compressor. Also picked this up off Facebook Marketplace, said it was not working. Yeah, I find this compressor's kind of seized, so I gave it a good punch, hurt my wrist, but and it started up and it actually ran a cycle, got cold, but the bearing in there must have gone a bit stiff, it failed, so it seizes up. So this thing's just a piece of junk. It's a Danfu, D-A-N-F-U, or Sichuan Danfu Compressor Co Limited, China. Not a knockoff of a stolen intellectual property for some other compressor manufacturer, and they've stolen it and made junk, made it a crappier. They take something and de-evolve it and make it crappier, and yeah, you get a cheap fridge when you go to the shop to buy a new fridge. Just not reliable. All copper lines, no aluminium, so it's easier to replace the compressor in here. I've got to replace the compressor to go in there too. It's a Centrex, which is this was a Pioneer's budget brand from the 70s, which nowadays is just a Chinese no-name brand now. So this used to be put on TVs, white goods. You don't see this name anymore. The font's definitely a Pioneer font that gives it away, the old Pioneer logo. 2 drawers. I don't think it had a drawer in here. Maybe it did, just got missing. Ah well. That's how I got it, but anyway. Evaporator, aluminium, not too shabbily made, but put a new compressor in it, flip it for a profit, get some money out of it, why not? I just can't believe it actually, yeah. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to cut that compressor open and we'll see what the bearings are like inside. Be a little sleeve bearing, it's probably stiffened a block or something in the metal, might have deformed when it got hot over time, and it's just twisted or deformed so that it can't start. But once it does run, it runs smoothly, it doesn't knock or anything. It's just a Chinese compressor. Probably better off with a Chinese 12 volt compressor for 4-wheel drives. Put that in there. Despite the leaking, they're probably more reliable than this bloody thing. Anyway, I've that old foot chest freezer with a 22 bullet holes in it. Probably going to put that compressor in it. That's most likely going to fit. Well, I could put this Australian made Tecumseh in it, but that's too good to put in the fridge, that crappy. This Embraco is an R12 series, R12 era Embraco. When I flush that out, we'll change the oil, I'll put that in that little Centrex fridge. That'd be alright. I know this brand's not the best brand, but it's certainly sure as hell better than any junk you can buy nowadays. A lot of commercial refrigeration equipment uses Embraco compressors and Tecumseh. And this came from a 2022 production, the LG fridge, which the local good guys had it dropped off at the back as scrap as a warranty. The inverter board was blown up. Came from China, the fridge. Yeah, the good guys got it and they sold it to a customer, not working. Just a piece of junk. And the inverter board's like $1,000 almost for that, just not worth it. So this scrap guy I know, he gave me the other stuff. Yeah, he's got it and using that fridge as a cupboard. And I got to take this compressor out of it. It needs a VFD to run. It's a 51 to 225 hertz, 240 volt, 3-phase compressor. So you could use an ordinary VFD to run that. I know it needs a specific type of inverter board to run it, but any VFD like this will run that compressor. This was one of these, 240 volt in, and yeah, 3-phase out to run the compressor at 240 volts. All you gotta do is program this to a thermostat. Whenever the fridge calls for cold, you set this to the set speed, and you can probably program this thing to run at certain speeds. So you get a good temperature controller to regulate the speed of this compressor according to how cold you want it to get, or for it to save power. This is mainly designed to save power. That's why it's at variable frequency. So it revs its tits off, they get cold quickly, and then once it's up to cold, it'll just idle it slowly to save power once it's cold. I think it's the linear too. The linear compressor this is. Made by Taizhou, LG Electronics Refrigeration Co Limited. Made in China, not made in Korea. So you use only with a specified control unit, but they all freaking crap nowadays. There's not much give in that to make it knock. Had aluminium on the discharge and some lock ring, what are called lock ring connectors. no soldering. Majority of it was just soldered there, soldered there. The rest of the joints for aluminium and copper are lock ringed, which is just if you can't solder, just crimp it and press it together, press fit it. It's on top of compression fitting. Bloody small though for a bloody big fridge, but look how small that compressor is. You can put that in the bloody in a Waco car fridge. Yeah, you could almost figure yeah, it's just the voltage is wrong for a car fridge use. 2.2 locomotive amps, 3-phase, as I said. So these bloody compressors and these fridges need more and more complex electronics to run them. When all you had in the old days, just a simple relay to protect the motor and start it. But that's too simple now. So you've got 3 wires, I think it's 4 wires. Must be 3 for your speed, and 1 must be for something else in here. I think there's a protection system in there which tells the inverter if this gets too hot, or if it must start it, and this has got too much pressure, too much load, and must be an extra wire for protection to tell the inverter to, yeah, what the state of the compressor is. Shengda. So bloody, yeah, as I said, I've googled, there's big LG fridges, a big 2-door thing. It's a $4,000 bloody fridge. Anyway, I might find a way to put that in another fridge, and one of these days I can still use it. It's not the best, if I can fix a fridge up with it and sell it, maybe rack this in it. As I said, the price of this thing is actually $500 to buy this. It's cheaper than actually buying a proper inverter that came with the LG fridge. There's a fuse in here I've got to change there. This came from a Huno combi oven. Pretty big, expensive thing, but one of the motors went to ground and took this out. It flashes red, so I'm pretty sure a fuse is blown. Hopefully we haven't blown up any RGBTs in this thing. But I've yet to take it apart and check the fuse. If the fuse is not blown, we have bad RGBTs. If the fuse is blown, and this thing still doesn't work, the RGBTs are blown. There's a special interface which goes in here you're going to have to set. This went to the combi oven's computer and controlled this thing, so I'll try and see if I can, the book's in there too. Try and make it with a little thermostat or like it's in the car fridge, a digital thermostat. Plug it in here and use it to run the LG compressor, like one of these. Find one of these that works on the VFD. Sure, it would be too hard to set up. Then it will just go to a different control board, or just get one of those that runs off low voltage and talks to this. And this does all the drives the compressor. And you set the temperatures, and then yeah, that tells this when to turn on and off. Yeah, it's all no screen on this one, so it's all completely analog interface. Anyway, good score. So this can easily replace the friggin' inverter that originally would have went in the fridge to run that. You can use this, put this on the fridge to fix the fridge. A bit more work involved, but oh well. Just a thought. 0.75 kilowatt, 1 horsepower. Plenty big enough drive for that compressor. Plenty big enough drive. 2.2 locomotive amps is bugger all. This Embraco compressor, 10 locked rotor amps. Quite a big. Anyway, while following on, I'm going to get into getting this all sorted out and put it on shelves, so let's get to it. A lot of work. Now, viewers, I've added this Embraco compressor on this freezer, fixed it up. Did an oil change on it, flushed it out. The oil was actually not too bad in that. A little dark and smelled like hazelnuts. But yeah, it was actually quite clean despite having to punch and evaporate the system that came out of. That's an Embraco compressor came out of that chest freezer with bullet holes in it. I've since mixed this oil up a little bit, but pretty much 90% of that's the oil that came out of that Embraco compressor. Bit dark, but I flushed it out and cleaned it. It smells good. And that's actually replaced this piece of junk. This Sichuan down-through compressor. I'm surprised being cheap Chinese shit. It's actually quite thick metal. Surprised. Built like the old compressors were back in the old days. The down-through compressor. There's no plastic in there. This actual mechanic is absolutely fine. Just that motor winding is weak. It doesn't want a motor anymore. That's all that's wrong with it. So, what a piece of junk. I've got a fit in the go on the end of that, and I put it on the Makita Tech gun. That spins at 20,000 RPM. And this thing pumped the tyre up in no time. It's a bit crude how I fitted a hose on here, but it worked. I'm going to put an extension on that with the intake, and make it a little mount to set that on, and have a motor on it. Have a little 12 volt or 18 volt Makita motor or something like that. Have a portable thing. Because we're going to have a proper little cordless tyre inflator. Might as well make out of one of these. It's built strong enough. It's a lot quieter too. So, yeah, no plastic in it. I was expecting a heap of plastic, but no plastic. It's actually the similar construction to the Panasonic compressors. Yeah, not bad for a Chinese piece of junk. Sichuan Danfu. But I cut it in such a way that I can weld it back together if I did so wish to. Actually worked out quite well. Yeah, whatever came out of the Embraco compressor, that I got about 150 ml of oil out of it. And I thought, well, some of that oil got lost a little bit too, so I added 200 ml and refilled it when I did my final top up. Put 200 ml of oil in there, and it's happy with that. I used Sun ISO VG52, I think it was. Sun ISO oil. It doesn't let's say it doesn't cost that much either. It's Japanese, good quality oil. That's the oil I use. 4GS, that's it, VG56. Pretty good oil, that stuff. Polyester's M Cavati, which is a bit more expensive, that oil. 5 litres of that's like nearly $200 here, so I thought, well, this Sun ISO oil is pretty compatible with most refrigerants, as well as R134A. Though it doesn't officially say it is, but people have used it successfully with R134A, and it didn't have any problems. This is R152A in here. I had to experiment a bit in how much I put in the system because it's different to R134A. I probably put about 150 grams of R152A in here, and it just gets sweaty on this line. Quite hard to gauge it, add it bit by bit because I wasn't quite frosting all the inside up all the way. So, but add a bit more, bit of experimentation. I got it right, and I found that the mounts, just started on, the mounts is actually universal on this plate. Most compressors would fit on this plate, which is kind of cool. It's got pre-tapped holes, which I just use a second set, next set back, and bolted it down. How good's that? I sealed it off like how Kirby done it back in the day. Resin heat shrink and squashed it with the pliers. They completely sealed this valve. It's on tight, that lid. There we go, professionally resealed the system. How good's that? Like a professional. A little bit, but a little bit of sweat going to the compressor is not going to hurt it. It's not flowing like fucking gushing in. It's not hammering or going clunk, clunk, clunk. Then I'm in trouble with it. It hasn't done that, so look, pretty good there. Yeah, a little bit of a sweat's not going to be a big deal. Now, normally you would change the filter dryer professionally when you're doing a compressor change the filter dryer, but since it wasn't open to air getting into that, not a big deal. The only reason I would change the filter dryer if air's gone through it and something major's compromised the system and moisture's gotten in there, but I pump this thing under a good vacuum for half an hour anyway, and then I put the gas in. So yeah, it's not bad for a Chinese fridge, but it's all copper lines at least. It isn't too poorly made, but the perfect candidate to practice replacing compressors on. Worked out quite well actually. It's quite a nice old compressor, this old R12 Embraco. You don't see much of the old round format compressors anymore. They're all ugly, square, ugly, oval shaped nowadays. I could just keep my hand on it. Yeah, a little bit uncomfortable to the touch, but it's not anything unusually high temperature. It's been going for about 24 hours now. I got it on its lowest setting to the I should say the warmest setting, I should say. On here. It's cold pouring out. That cold's pouring out of here. working quite well. It's not going anywhere. So it's just missing the where it hits here, just missing in there, so it's not going to go clunk clunk clunk. Worked out quite well. The back bolt wasn't 100% close, but I'll put a bigger washer on it and just clamp it down. It's not going to go anywhere. It's got a little hook thing up there too. Anyway, I'm quite happy with that. Worked out quite well. Getting pretty good at this refrigeration thing actually. It does stick out like an inch more than the original compressor does. Gives it a good air circulation so you can't put it right against the wall. I might even keep that as a just as a small little freezer to have. Keep hold of that one here. Quite happy how it's worked out. The next compressor I cut open is just a Panasonic one, which is gone to earth. But what I'm going to do the motor starters I'll give to me the bloke who gave me the other features to sell, the scrapper. He can have the motor part, and I'll make one of these up for him with a 12 volt dual attachment. They give him a compressor part, he could use that as a portable dual powered air compressor. Actually works quite well. They're very mechanically sound. All you do is put a bit of spray on a bit of oil here and there. It'll last forever. There's no wear in that. 12 years this thing's been in service and there's not really much wear in it at all. I'm surprised for a Chinese bloody thing, it's actually quite well made. No excess plastic in it at all. Normally there's a plastic suction box in here in some of them, but this one doesn't have that. This little bit here hits on there, that stabilises it. You see the little marks where it's been hitting. That's probably where it's been rattling as it's been transported over the years. It's been hitting there too, and hitting on there, been rattling, which have been probably hitting on here, here, and probably here. Just when you rattle the compressor, it goes clunk, 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 clunk. We'll fill up to about here with oil. It's clear polyester oil, but it didn't smell much. It reminds me of mineral oil actually. But as you can see inside the shell, these pipes are actually flush inside, which is kind of cool. So when you're changing oil on this, the actual pipes are flush in there. Interesting. But all the starting gear is working quite fine. I'm going to keep an eye on the nameplate. You can see where they welded it there, on here. So I need to get the kind of nameplate and the data. It doesn't give me any current rating or anything though. So I've probably got to Google this on Google. This would tell me the size motor. Then I can catalogue that in my spare parts bin for the correct size motor, because this is still fine. That's a PTC motor starter. I'll use that for the same size rated motor for any compressor. It'll be fine. Yeah, as I said, not bad for cheap Chinese crap. And as I said, the current shape is a bit smaller again. A bit smaller than the current shape compressors. They're all seeing this ugly shape now. They don't make them round anymore. Anyway, that'll be enough for now. Thanks for watching.